Hi guys, Shaquita here from Crown Me Quita, and today I have with me my son,
DEJOUR. Hello.
and together we bring you another episode from Conversations with Quita. And our topic is, Dejo, you want to tell them?
We're going to be discussing the movie Coming to America 2.
But first, let's get into this intro. Let me begin by saying, major spoiler alert. If you have not seen the movie, please do not watch this video. Pause and come back after you've seen it. Again, it's available right now on Prime Video.
Yep.
Okay? Amazon Prime
Yep.
Video. Let me just throw it out there. If you hear background noise, my husband is downstairs watching the UNC versus Duke game.
Duke sucks
and he
this
is a diehard Tar Heel fan. So if
Yep.
you hear him screaming in the background, I apologize in advance. Okay? So, again, this video will be pretty much DeJour and I sharing with you our takeaways from the movie Coming to America 2. What we liked, what we disliked.
How the two movies parallel, if there's real life implications or ways that it connects to life as we know it.
Yeah.
All types of things.
So, the first question, which was your favorite? Part 1 or part 2?
I think part one, like we were talking about when we were walking earlier, part one I think was better because part one of everything, almost every time in every situation, part one is better like every time.
Because I feel like they overdo it sometimes with the second part. And it was like, dang, if they would have left that out, it would have been
and
perfect.
seeing a young Eddie Murphy was pretty dope because he's getting older now. He hasn't lost his ability to act, but he's getting older. But just like seeing that younger Eddie Murphy was just really cool.
For me, I would have to agree with DeJour. I just think the basic storyline from Coming to America 1 was my favorite.
Yep.
But what I enjoyed about the second movie was how they modernized it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about our takeaways from Coming to America Part 2.
Yep.
One thing that I noticed that is kind of symbolic of American history in the movie, the African country that Akeem, Eddie Murphy, was the king of, I can't remember the name of it, do you?
No.
But anyway, they didn't allow women to own businesses, and they did not allow female children to become the heir of the throne. So Eddie Murphy had a daughter who was, who he thought was his firstborn until he found out he had an illegitimate son. And according to their traditions, she could not become the queen because they did not allow females to be the heir of the throne. Doesn't that sound like history when, women weren't allowed to vote and women were expected to be housewives and care for the home, and the men were expected to go out and be the breadwinner? That was one parallel that I took away, like just from American history. And I'm not sure if Eddie Murphy intended for that to be symbolic, but toward the end of the movie, actually, maybe he does, because toward the end of the movie, he ends up breaking those traditions, like we are fighting to do currently, in America with some things. Women have women are allowed to do more than what they were able to do in the past. But we still are fighting stereotypes. You know what I'm saying? So by the end of the movie, he broke those traditions. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, similar to yours, the American dream, how the idea that everybody from other countries looks at America and the freedoms we have, religious freedom, the freedom of speech, and different things like that, and they want to come over here and experience that. So, and it was ironic how Eddie Murphy was willing to give up everything he had in his lavish lifestyle to live a mediocre and even impoverished almost type of lifestyle in this raggedy apartment building in the first movie. And he comes over, he's kind of like uncultured. I don't know if that's the word, like uncultured, doesn't know about American culture.
I get what you mean, though.
And he doesn't know like the colloquials, the phrases, the way of life. But he was willing to give all of that up just so he could have the freedom to pursue the woman that he loved.
Yes,
Yeah.
because back in his country, like they bathed him, they fed him, they brushed his teeth for him. He had butt wipers, y'all. For if he did number two, sorry for how that sound, but I ain't got no other way to say it. They wiped his butt for him, and so he was just at this point in his life where he's like, I want to experience freedom. I want to experience life on my own, where I don't have somebody doing every single thing for me. I want to. It's pretty much he couldn't make his own choices almost.
Right.
Wouldn't you say? So he came to America to get a taste of that. Land of the free, home of the brave.
And it's almost sad how the dad was Eddie Murphy's dad or Hakeem's dad was so strict. But you know he's an older guy, and in the second movie he ends up dying. But it's sad how he finally starts to come around as he gets old. So he was set in that way for so long, for years, decades and decades and decades, and it was finally broken. Where Eddie Murphy started to get into the stage of life where he wanted to be with a woman, not like where he wanted to spend the rest of his life with somebody.
Yeah. It's almost like generational, I don't want to call it generational curses,
Not
but
it's a generational habit.
yeah, being passed down from
Or a tradition.
But it could but if you think of it, like if we think in terms of generational curses, right? So when I say generational curse, I mean any negative cycle or any negative thing passed down through your bloodline, meaning from one generation to the next, and it just keeps repeating itself. Okay, let's think of some of them, because sometimes generational curses, they don't seem like, it's not so always so evident, like pride. Would you say that was a generational curse that they were passing down? I feel like pride in the men. You don't
Eddie
feel like
Murphy
it?
wasn't prideful.
He wasn't, but I feel like some of his father, because of the tradition, like he wasn't prideful, but because he was trying to keep the traditions, which I feel like there was so much pride buried in those traditions that he took on pride without realizing it, and then was about to pass it down to the next generation, but it was broken with his children.
Right.
That's so dope.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
cool.
so dope. Like pride, what else can we think of? What's the word for
Familiarity.
Yes. And even what's the word for, I feel like there's a word, but like suppressing the women from reaching their full potential.
Sexism.
Yeah.
And it's like the movies can kind of be a political move too, to like get a political message across. Even though I don't think it's more of a political move as it is a human rights move. Like, you know, it's not really, because y'all know how Trump is about immigration policy. You know how Joe is, the liberal conservative thing. It wasn't political at all. I just think it's just, you know, a human rights thing of, you know, and just a matter of their will, like what they wanted as people, as citizens in an African country and wanting to come to America. But movies can sometimes have that political overlap, where they overlap with politics and things like that. But I don't think this one was the case. But it did portray a message. So next, we're going to talk about Lavelle, which was Akeem's illegitimate son, and how the events within the movie shaped him as a character. And, yeah, what do you have first? I'll let you go first. What do you have?
And just how his character portrays, like, things that are happening in everyday life. So, number one, it was a perfect example of the African American male who is fatherless and how their life is impacted when their father is not around. And so Lavelle, you will hear him talking about how he's been stereotyped his whole life because his father wasn't in the picture, and just how he imagines how his life could have been different had his father been there. Right. And there was even one scene where he went in for a job interview at the beginning of the movie, for I'm not sure what type of job it was, but he was going to use his sales experience to gain the position. And so the man interviewing him, who was a Caucasian, he stereotyped him on so many levels without knowing anything about him. So some of the questions he asked were, and help me out, DEJOUR, if I'm forgetting anything. Was his mother on drugs?
Yep.
Who How dare you ask somebody that at a job interview?
Right.
Was his mother on drugs? Is his father, was his father in the picture?
Yep. I can't even remember the other ones, but it was just stereotypical.
But them two questions alone, and I feel like part of the reason he stereotyped him was based on what he wore to his interview. But in my opinion, Lavelle, number one, wore what he had, and he dressed himself up very well with what
He
he
looked
had.
decent.
Yeah,
He had my bad for yawning. He had a tie. He had a button-up shirt. He had on some khakis, I think. Some dress.
he had on jeans, but he had his
but-
button-up shirt tucked in. He had on a belt. He did have on Timberlands, but you could tell that he did the best with what he had in order to present himself in a professional way for the interview.
Right.
And the man just stared. I guess he seen a man with Timberland boots and like a box, and his mind went left. And I was very pleased with how Lavelle handled the interview,
Literally.
though.
That's like a play on words, and his mind went left. Yo.
But I was pleased with how he
snap.
handled the interview and how he read the Caucasian man his cards
cards,
about
right.
being fed with a silver spoon in his
privilege.
mouth. Yeah, the
Yeah.
privilege.
I think something else beautiful is like when Akeem came back into the picture, when he came back into Lavelle's life, it kind of reinforces the idea or the message or the thing that it's never too late for a black father to come back to their
Yes.
child. It's never too late. And they can come in and actually help their child tremendously because at the end of the movie, Lavelle becomes the prince.
He changed his life
Lavelle becomes the
completely
prince,
after he met
and
his
he's
father.
living this lavish, rich lifestyle.
His life completely turned around. He went from being low class to now rich, the prince
Yep.
of a whole kingdom. And I just want to add that Eddie Murphy did not know about Lavelle his whole life.
Right.
He found out about him through a vision that his grandmother had. Was it his grandmother? It was
that
some
probably was a
old
guy.
person. Yeah, I don't
The
know.
gray braids and the shark teeth, the dirty teeth.
Which
had.
gave me all types of witchcraft vibes, by the way. But he didn't know about this child. And to be honest, the way the child was conceived in part one and the way they tied it into part two, they was reaching. They was reaching. But that was
snap.
one of the things where kind of a little bit overdid it. But Eddie Murphy didn't know about him until his son was 30 when he found out that he had a child.
Yeah.
The mother, that's another thing. They painted a picture of the black woman. Like Lavelle's mother was painted a picture.
The baby mama drama.
Yeah, I think I see what Eddie Murphy was doing now. He was painting the picture of how the world sees black people.
Yeah.
But then at the end turned it around. You know what I'm saying? So Lavelle's mother, the picture that was painted of her was a hoe who gives it up wherever she can.
Floozy.
She had no idea who Lavelle's father was until he came one day and said, "This is my son," and then it all came back to her.
Yep. A subliminal message, and they do that in movies and TV shows. They put things inside of movies that they want to use to influence people, and it kind of just affects you or speaks to you in a way that you don't readily recognize it in your conscious mind. It subconsciously affects you and then trickles into your mind in a way that, you might see effects on
Yes.
yourself or other people or society as well. If it's
But
a
I
big
really feel like Eddie Murphy was he wanted to paint that. And again, we don't know. We just telling you what we took away from
Right.
it, how our minds start our brains start churning, the thoughts that we
Right.
took away from the movie.
The
We
juices
just
start to
speaking out
flow.
loud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Our thoughts on the movie could change tomorrow as we recall another scene. But I do strongly feel like Eddie Murphy was painting that picture of how the world sees black people.
Yep.
African Americans, and then turning it around. Like, this is how you see us, but this is what we can be.
Right.
And this is sometimes what we are when you stereotype us as this. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? So his son went from being poor, being stereotyped, to now rich, owning a kingdom. Even in part one, they stereotyped Akeem when he first came to
Yep.
America. And then when they, like Lisa's father, his now wife, when he was first pursuing her in the movie,
Oh, yeah.
her dad,
That dad was...
I can't remember his name, Cleo, the owner of
Cleo.
McDowell's
With the- yeah.
restaurant, he was totally not feeling it because Akeem was posing to be a poor man. He wanted to find a bride that would love him for who he was and not for what he has. So he posed as a poor man. And Lisa, his now wife, her dad was not feeling it because he thought Akeem was poor. When he found out that Akeem was really rich, the tables turned, and he was all for Akeem then.
Exactly.
What was I going with this, though? What was I saying originally
How
about
it
that?
reinforces the stereotype.
Yeah.
Is that
Like,
what you're saying?
I think. Oh, yeah, how they stereotyped him. The dad stereotyped him. Well, actually, I can't even say he stereotyped him because Akeem told him he was poor. He painted the picture of being poor.
He had to lie to kind of... Wait, why did he could have just told the truth to begin with?
But he didn't want...
Right.
He wanted the person that he found to be his bride to love him for him.
Right.
But that didn't have to change the way that Cleo treated him. I feel like I teach my children to treat all people the same, whether it's a janitor or whether it's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company or whether it's Oprah Winfrey, Barack Obama. Everybody deserves the same respect. And so Cleo, when he knew Akeem was poor, he treated him like trash. Yep. And when he found out he was rich, he treated him like royalty. And it shouldn't be like that. And so I think that might have been the picture that Eddie Murphy was trying to paint. He wanted to bring awareness to it. Like, this happens in real life.
That gold digger complex, boy. Because I tell you what, Lisa's sister was a...
Patrice? Was that her name? Patrice?
I don't know.
She was a gold digger at its finest. When she thought she had the hots for Hakeem. And then...
Yeah, and then turned to...
she thought that Hakeem's friend was the prince.
The servant, right?
And Hakeem was the servant. And she dumped Hakeem like a hot cake.
Hot cakes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And so the last thing I want to talk about is the title. How I feel like the title Coming to America, I feel like a pun was intended and there was a play on the words. The title Coming to America. Well, in part one, Hakeem spent the entire movie trying to find himself as a man. And so by the end of the movie, he came into himself as a man, coming to America. And then Coming to America part 2, I feel like he found himself as a king and he broke away from the tradition.
He came to himself and then helped his son come to himself. So
I thoroughly enjoyed both movies. Like we just like to sit and think and process our thoughts out loud. It's something we enjoy doing together. And we thought it would be great to bring you guys along in the process, considering that this movie is trending right now on TikTok, on several platforms.
Right.
There's a Coming to America hashtag on TikTok. Did you know that? Yes.
Dang.
That's trending right now.
It's serious. Then.
Yeah. And you gonna sit up?
Yes.
And so my last little thought or connection was, so in both part 1 and part 2, Lisa's dad, who is Akeem's bride, Eddie Murphy's bride, her dad owned a restaurant called McDowell's. And throughout the entire movie, McDonald's was pursuing him for copyright infringement and stealing their ideas. But he was like, there was a fine line. So like McDonald's, McDowell's. And then McDonald has the golden arches. He had the golden arcs. McDonald's had the McFlurry. He had the McFurby. They put their toppings on the top. He put his toppings on the bottom. Right. And it just made me think of, like, restaurants really do that. Like, I think Hardee's right now just came out with the Big Hardy. I think that's what it's called. But it's literally a replica of the Big Mac. It has 2 all beef patties, 3 buns,
that's business
the special sauce, which we all know is a Thousand Island dressing. But I just thought, wow, they even brought in the parallels between competitive businesses.
Copycats.
The Big Hardy, the Big Mac. Come on now. Let's be original. Yeah, we've got nothing else. So we're going to honor your time and wrap up this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have anything to add, anything we missed, any parallels you drew, any takeaways, please drop them in the comments because we would love to hear them and converse with you about them in the comments. We love to do this. But yeah, like I said, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Remember, adjust your crowns because royalty looks good on you. And I'll see you in the next video.
In the next video roll.
Happy YouTubing.
Next video roll.
Bye.
Happy YouTubing. Happy YouTubing.